ISO 9000 standard framework, an international set of standards that can be used as basis for developing quality management system. ISO 9001. The most general of these standards applies to organizations that design, develop, and maintain products including software. The ISO 9001 standard is framework for developing software standard. It sets our generally quality principle, describe quality process in general, and lays out the organizational standard and procedure that should be defined. They should be documented in an organizational quality manual. Dito sa standard frameworks, sila yung nagde-design at nagde-develop at nagme-maintain ng products including software. ISO 9000 core process. Ito yung proseso ng ISO. Product delivery process, business acquisition, design and development, test, production and delivery, service and supporting process, business management, supplier management, inventory management, and configuration management. ISO 9001 in quality management. Ito yung sample. Quality management. ISO 9001 certification, quality standard are procedures should be documented in an organizational quality manual. An external body may certify that an organization's quality manual conforms to ISO 9000 standard. Some customers require supplier to be ISO 9000 certified, although the need for flexibility here is increasingly recognized. Key points. Software quality management is concerned with ensuring that software has a low number of defects, that it reaches the required standard of maintainability, reliability, portability, and so on. SQM includes defining standard for processes and products and establishing processes to check that these standards have been followed. Software standards are important for quality assurance as they present an identification of best practice. Quality management procedures may be documented in an organizational quality manual based on the generic model for a quality manual suggested in the ISO 9001 standard. Quality management. Review and inspections. A group examines part or all of a process or system and its documentation to find potential problem. Software documents may be signed off at review, which signifies that progress to the next development stage has been approved by management. There are different types of review with different objectives: inspection for the defect removal, product review for progress assessment, product and process quality review, and standard review. Dito sa review and inspection, ito yung parang sinasala yung software. Tapos merong iba-ibang different types review. May iba-ibang types ng pag-review sa software. Ito yung in-inspect yung sa defect. Tapos nire-review yung progress ng software. Tapos quality review. Quality reviews, a group of people carefully examine part of or all of software system documentation, code designs, specification, test plan, standard, etc. can be all review. Software or documents may be signed off at review, which signifies the progress to the next development stage has been approved by management. Dito sa quality reviews, ito nga yung check yung code designs, tapos yung specification test plans ng standard. Tapos may grupo na ng mga tao na nag-exam sa system. The software review process. Ito yung sample ng software review process. Planning, dadaan sa planning, tas group preparation, tas individual preparation, tapos magkakaroon ng review meeting sa afternoon. Doon makita yung error and correction, tas improvement, tas follow up check kapag yung okay na yung software. Review in agile methods. The review process in agile software development is usually informal. In Scrum, for example, there is a review meeting after each iteration of the software has been completed. A sprint review, where quality issue and problem may be discussed. In extreme programming, fair programming ensures that code is constantly being examined and reviewed by another team member. Relies on individual taking the initiative to improve and refactor code. Agile approaches are not usually standard driven, so issues of standard compliance are not usually considered. Program inspection. These are peer reviews where engineers examine the source of a system with the aim of discovering anomalies and defects. Inspection do not require execution of a system, so may be used before implementation. They may be applied to any representation of the system, course design, configuration, data tests, data, etc. They have been shown to be an effective technique for discovering program errors. Inspection checklists of common errors should be used to drive the inspection. Error checklists are programming languages designed to reflect the characteristic errors that are likely to arise in the language. In general, in the weaker, the type checking the larger checklists. Examples: initialization, constant naming, loop termination, array, bounds, etc. An inspection checklist. Fault class. Sa loob ng inspection checklist, may fault class. Data faults are all programming variables initialized before their values are used. Have all constant been named. Should the upper bound of array be equal to the size of the array or size -1? If character strings are used, is a delimiter explicitly assigned? Is there any possibility of buffer overflow? Control faults. For each conditional statement, is the condition correct? Is each loop certainty to terminate? Are compound statements correctly bracketed? In case statements are all possible cases accounted for. If a break is required after each case, in case statements has been included. Input and output faults. Are all variables used? Are all output variables assigned a value before they are output? Can unexpected inputs cause corruption? An inspection checklist. Fault class. Interface faults. Do all function and method calls have the correct number of parameters? Do formal actual parameter types match? Are the parameters in the right order? If, if components access shared memory, do they have the same model of the shared memory structure? Storage policy management. If a link structure is modified, have all links been correctly reassigned? If dynamic storage is used, has space been allocated correctly? Is space explicitly deallocated after it is no longer required? Exception. Pulse management. Have possible error conditions have been taken into account? Agile methods inspections. Agile process rarely use formal inspection or peer review processes. Rather, they rely on team members cooperating to check each other code and informal guidelines such as check before check-in, which suggests that programmers should check their own code. Extreme programming practitioners argue that pair programming is an effective substitute for inspection, as this is effect continual inspection process. Two people look at every line of a code and check it before it is accepted.
Software metric, any type of measurement which relates to a software system, process, or relate documentation. Allow the software and the software process to quantify. May be used to predict product attribute or control the software process. Product metrics can be used for general prediction or to identify anomalous components. Use of measurement to assign a value to system quality attributes by measuring the characteristic system components such as their cyclomatic complexity, and then aggregating this measurement you can assess system quality attributes such as stability to identify the system component whose quality is substandard. Measurement can identify individual components with characteristics that deviate from the norm. For example, you can measure components to discover those with the highest complexity. These are most likely to contain bugs because the complexity makes them harder to understand. Matrix assumption. A software property can be measured. The relationship exists between what we can measure and what we want to know. We can only measure internal attributes but are often more interested in internal software attributes. The relationship has been formalized and validated. It may be difficult to relate when measured to desirable and external quality attributes. Problem with measurement in industry. It is impossible to quantify the return of investment of introducing an organization metrics program. These are no standard for software metrics or standardized process for measurement and analysis. Many companies' software processes are not standardized, are poorly defined and controlled. This work on software measurement has focused on code-based metrics and pain-driven development process. However, more and more software is now developed by configuring ERP system or EOTS. Introducing measurements adds additional overhead to process. Product metrics. Quality metrics should be predictor to product quality. Classes of product metrics. Dynamic metrics, which are collected by measurement made of a program in execution. Statistic metrics, which are collected by measurement made of the system representation. Dynamic metrics help access to efficiency and reliability. Statistic metrics help access complexity, understandability, and maintainability. Dynamic and static metric. Dynamic metric are closely related to software quality attribute. It is relatively easy to measure the response time of a system. Performance attribute of the number of failure. Reliability attribute. Static metric have an indirect relationship with quality attribute. You need to try derive a relationship between this metric and properties such as complexity, understandability, and maintainability. Static software product metric. Software metric fan in and fan out. Description. Fan in is a measure of a number of function or method that call another function or method. Say X. Fan out is the number of functions that are called by function X. High value of fan means X is tightly coupled to the rest of the design and change to X will have extensive knockout effect. A high value for fan-out suggests that the overall complexity of X may be high because of the complexity of the control logic needed to coordinate the called component. Line of code. This is measure of the size of a program. Generally, the larger the size of a component, the more complex and error-prone that component is likely to be. Line of code has been shown to be one of the most reliable metrics for predicting error proneness in component. Software metric. Cyclomatic complexity. This is a measure of the control complexity of a program. This control complexity may be related to program understandability. I discussed cyclomatic complexity in Chapter 8. Length of identifiers. This is a measure of the average length of identifiers, name of variable, classes, method, etc. In a program, the longer the identifier, the more likely they are to be meaningful and hence the more understandable the program. Depth of conditional nesting. This is a measure of the depth of nesting which statement in a program deeply nested if statements are hard to understand and potentiality error prone. Fog index. This is a measure of the average length of words and sentences in document. The higher the value of a document fog index, the more difficult the document is to understand. The CK object oriented metrics suite. Object oriented metrics. Weighted method per class. This is number of methods in each class, weighted by the complexity of each method. Therefore, a simple method may have a complexity of 1, and a large and complex method such a much higher value. The larger the value for this metric, the more complex the object class. Complex objects are more likely to be difficult to understand. They cannot logically to so cannot be reused effectively in several classes in a inheritance tree. Depth of inheritance tree (DIT). These represent the number of discrete levels in the inheritance tree where subclass inherit attributes and operation. From superclass, the deeper the inheritance tree, the more complex the design. Many object classes may have to be understood to understand the object class at the leaves of the tree. Number of children. NOC. This is a measure of the number of immediately subclasses in a class. It measures the width of a class hierarchy. Nearest DIT measure its depth. A high value for NOC may indicate greater use. May means that more effort should be made in validating base class because of the number of subclasses that depend on them. Object-oriented metric. Coupling between object classes CBO. Description. The classes are coupled when method in one class use method or instance variable depends in a different class. CBO is a measure of how much coupling exists. A high value for CBO means the classes are highly dependent and therefore it is more likely that changing one class will affect other classes in the program. Response for a class. RFC is a measure of a number of methods that could potentially be executed in response to a message received by an object of that class. Again, RFC is related to complexity. The higher the value of for RFC, the more complex a class and hence the more likely it is that it will include error. Lack of cohesion in methods. LCOM is calculated by considering pairs of methods in a class. LCOM is the difference between the number of method pairs without shared attributes and the number of method pairs with shared attributes. The value of this metric has been widely debated and it exists in several variations. It's not clear if it really adds any additional useful information over and above that provided by the other metrics. Software component analysis. System component can be analyzed separately using a range of metrics. The value of these metrics may then compared for different components and perhaps with historical measurement data collected on previous project. Anomalous measurement deviate significantly from the norm may imply that there are problems with the quality of this component. Measurement surprise. Reducing the number of faults in a program leads to an increased number of help. This goal. The program is now as more reliable and so has a wider, more diverse market. The percentage of users who hold the help. This may have decreased but the total may increase. A more reliable system is used in a different way from a system where user works around the faults. This leads to more help this goal.